Hello, hello. Today's a special one. We had Nissim Malul, and we talked about some really interesting stuff. Gary, why don't you recap?
Yeah, Nissim is an amazing healer. He is an herbalist. I think he's an integrative herbalist. He is so educated and brings together many practices. And we get into psychedelic medicine. We get into immunity support. We get into natural healing, and of course, we talk about nutrition and food. And you guys are gonna love this episode. I'm so excited to share this with you.
I really liked it because, yeah, it's a holistic, it's bringing everything together, the integrative approach, and that's what we do here. And yeah, this one's a little outside the box. We do get into some cool topics that we haven't talked about before, and it's a good one. So check it out. But before we start, we just want to mention the Sapien program. So this is for people who want to really change their diet and lifestyle. And I mean, there's a lot of info out there, and you could probably do your own research and figure it out on your own. But you don't it doesn't really work out like that. You kind of need a guide, and so that's what we provide. We made this course. We have health coaches. We have all kinds of materials for you.
We have the Sapien Tribe, which is really important. If you need a community of people that are like-minded, that are working hard to change their lifestyle, this is the place for you. Join us. We do Zoom calls with our tribe members all the time, and we ask questions, answer questions, share our ideas. We also have a great product called Nose to Tail, and we partner with some amazing farmers around the country, and we provide the highest quality animal products direct to your door. Check it out. It's amazing stuff.
And also Evolve Healthcare. If you want to work with Dr. Gary, and if you're in LA, or if you're want to meet with him online, we do that as well. And if you're listening to this episode, you probably already know that Dr. Gary is not like a normal doctor and will, provide that integrative approach and, evolve.
Yeah, and everyone, I want to just thank everyone who's listening. I've had such an influx of patients from around the country, around the world, really, and it's been amazing to see people's lives transform. It's really what's happening. I'm not just saying that, and I welcome anyone to reach out to my office, reach out to Brian and myself online. Join the tribe. Let's have the most amazing 2021. Let's do this.
Awesome. Enjoy the episode.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Sapien Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Gary, and he's going to introduce our guest, Nissim.
Yes. Wow. I am so excited to be here, as usual, but particularly so to introduce you guys to this gentleman. Nissim Malul is, well, he's many things, but I think the best way to describe him is an alternative healthcare practitioner. I would call you a healer, an herbalist. You've studied naturopathic medicine. You've studied so many different things. And me and Nissim met not long ago and immediately got connected. We have a similar holistic approach to healthcare, to life. And Nissim has an amazing company called Immunity Herbals, and he's trying to help people build their immunity in natural ways. And I'm really excited for you guys to meet him. Nissim, welcome.
Thank you.
So tell us about yourself. Tell us about your company. I think everyone's going to be really excited to learn about this.
Okay, well, the company is actually Native Mystic is the umbrella company of several different branches of plant-based formulas, from immunity, like I said, to nootropics, to muscle growth, to mood control, to teeth and skin, and all kind of different formulas, all plant-based. A lot of my work is based on Daoist medicine. So there's Chinese medicine and Daoist medicine. Daoist was more focused on longevity and tonic and herbs that could be used on a daily basis, just like the word, if you heard about adaptogens, ashwagandha is a really well-known adaptogen. So adaptogen pretty much means meeting the body where it's at, or reducing the stress response for where the body is at the moment. So a lot of the Daoist work is Daoist monks that observed animals, how they operate in nature in various different types of conditions, and which herbs they would eat on a daily basis, and they mimicked the animals, and it became like the Daoist wisdom. And the herbs like goji, shizandra, even reishi, chaga, those are all tonic herbs, basically, or adaptogens.
And mushrooms.
Yeah. Reishi chaga is a mushroom. Yeah, cordyceps, lion's mane. Yeah, definitely. So a lot of my work is based on that. It's based also a little bit on Ayurvedic medicine, a little bit on Thai medicine, so the traditional Thai medicine. And also recently started using biblical herbs that are, frankincense as an herb, amazing. And we can talk about that That and also Amazonian. So Amazonian have their own wisdom. Amazonian plants, cat's claw, amazing herb. They even heal cancer with it. You
Wow.
know? Yeah, like amazing anti-inflammatory.
So you're really taking an integrative approach instead
Integrative.
of focusing on sort of one of these,
Yes.
ideas. You're learning about all of them and integrating them and creating some really powerful plant medicines, essentially.
Yes, yes, yeah, and you know what makes a difference for me? My approach to it is that I believe that the plant is an entity, as it has a wisdom to it, and I don't claim to know better than the plant. Vice versa. All my formulas are formulated using intuition. So I know the plants, and then I'll create the formula from an intention. Like, what is the intention that this formula wants to deliver? And I'll create the formula. I don't know the numbers, or I don't know the amounts, and I literally get into a state where I tune into it and I get the numbers. And you know what? I verified myself about 7 times for each formula, and I get the same numbers. I erase, and something happens.
So give me an example, like, because I love that. When I'm always going to use it to relative to how I practice, because I kind of am developing my own medical approach too, and I use this integrative approach where, I was trained to use all of these pharmaceutical drugs, and I still use them, but I also will meet a patient, sort of create, I guess an intention's a good word, but a goal, right? And like, what does this patient need? They need to relax, they need to get more energy, whatever, right? And sort of formulate a treatment approach as with a combination of supplements, because that's sort of where I work, is supplements and food, and kind of guide them to help them heal themselves, essentially. So can you give me like, I'm just really curious, like, what does that look like? Someone comes to you, and or you create an intention of, I want a product that will do this for someone. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, in terms of if an individual will want something tailored to them, then I would tune into their energy and feel which plants that they would work with, and then I would create a formula for them.
What about with like your immunity herbals? Are those more like combinations of these different plant medicines?
Yes.
Or it is?
Yes, some of formulas are more based on the Daoist medicine. Some are more Ayurvedic, and some are a combination of all the different plants. Yeah, so a little bit of each one. Yeah, so it's been a process. It's been 25 years of my own self-development that has led to coming to a place where I can literally get to a formula and trust it completely, and completely let go and notice what shows up from the plant itself.
It sounds like a ayahuasca ceremony. I've never done one, but from what I hear, it's you trust a plant and it takes you on this journey, and that's how they kind of do these ceremonies. And I guess that's what you're saying.
Yes, every plant has that sort of wisdom, and it is if I choose to trust the plant, what's the message that, even peppermint, what does it want to tell me? Even lotus, what does it want to tell me? Like, how much do you want to be in this formula? How much of you wants to be in? Literally, I talk to them. It seems weird.
So you have this lab, and I just envision you in a lab in like a big shawl, and you're just like, there's potions and like purple and orange. I don't know. That's just
more simple than that.
This idea of plant medicine is something that me and Brian get asked about a lot, and I haven't had a chance so much to talk about it, and so on this podcast. But I believe that we have lost our way with pharmaceuticals. There's many good pharmaceutical drugs out there, but the vast majority of them originate from some kind of plant. Right? Like, where are we coming up with these chemicals, and where are we coming up with these ideas? Well, this is where medicine started. Herbalists and natural healers and people that understood the natural world. Not 100 years ago when we started using evidence-based medicine and started cutting everything else out that wasn't, but arguably millions of years of accrued human knowledge and accrued experience to help heal ourselves and guide ourselves through this journey of life, right? And using these plants. So, I have a passion for using food, because that's a platform I think as a physician I need to do. But psychedelic medicine, specifically, which is plant medicine, is something I'm very passionate about bringing to my community and in general. Do Do you see them as like different things? Like, when you create a mushroom blend to help someone feel more focused or feel more, energy or help them heal from a malady or something, is that different than using a psychedelic medicine? Is that a weird question? Do you
Well,
look at it as all one thing, or because I
I
do?
look at it as all one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the psychedelics that are way stronger and more potent, and there's a different way to work with them, and different amounts. So they could be an addition to other herbs.
Right.
If a person wants to work with them on a therapeutic manner on a daily basis with the whole how do you call that, the whole movement of microdosing
Yes.
right now, it's the micro amount, because that goes to show that all you need is just a little bit of that. Those are master plants. You're talking about, yeah, exactly. Reishi is a master plant. If you take a lot of reishi, you'll be high.
Is
Lion-
reishi is a mushroom?
Is a medicinal Chinese mushroom. It's good for inflammation. It's actually has a thing for consciousness, for awareness. It's a master mushroom. So if you take a lot of it, you'll get like really high.
So you're saying that other than the typical psychedelic psilocybin-driven mushrooms, there's these other mushrooms that are very psychotropic and
potent.
powerful and potent.
Yeah, lion's mane. Lion's mane has neuroregeneration properties. If a person, for instance, here's two things. Reishi, an example. My own teacher, Ramania Dean, I studied with a Gate of Life lineage of Daoist herbs. Ron Teagarden, if you heard about him in Santa Monica. Anyway, he's the head of the lineage in the U.S. And then Ramania is his student. Ramania used to have, he told a personal story that he had depression in the beginning when he just started studying, and he dosed with reishi for 2-3 weeks. Depression gone.
Yeah, I think
And
I think the power of psychedelic medicine, when used appropriately, right? Not always these whopping mega doses that causes you to hallucinate, but like just a little bit to alter your brain. And it's so much. I have patients in my clinic that do it, and they're openly talk to me about it. Obviously can't publicly support them, and I would never talk about it, but I publicly support the use of psychedelics. And I think that, the research is going to prove us right. There's an overwhelming amount of research right now for psilocybin and MDMA as modalities to help with depression, PTSD, anxiety, addiction, also ketamine, which is also derived from a plant originally. But and I want to talk about all that with you. I'm finding that patients can use these medicines for short periods of time in overwhelming doses, and really find like an endpoint where they're healed and they don't need them. They're not dependent on them.
yes.
And I think that model is something that's so missing, because all we have are these daily suppressive medications that don't actually heal. They just numb. And, you mentioned some of these mushrooms that open up your consciousness. And, when I grew up and when I went through training, you don't talk about consciousness. That's not something a medical doctor talks about, because it's in this world of foo-foo or mystical or whatever. And to me, I think it's like at the least sad, but at the most like completely deplorable that they have excised spirituality, herbs, mushrooms from the world of medicine, and only deliver like chemicals. And oftentimes those chemicals are natural in origin, but the way they're used, it's hurting people, So I think an approach like yours is really what the world needs, especially during this COVID disaster that we're dealing with.
Yeah, because there's always several types of layers to look at health. So if like in medicine, they take out all the other layers and focus on, I would say, the physical. If we look at this as a bigger word, the physical world is 1% of what we can see.
Mm-hmm.
The non-physical, what I cannot see, or in quantum physics, the quantum space is 99%. And that has more knowledge and more light wisdom than that 1%, which the whole world is focusing on, and drama and psychology and all that stuff is in that 1%. though that 99%, which is psychedelics, is what opens the gates to that. And why wouldn't medicine want to explore a bigger part that is actually causing the 1% that they're really focused on and adamant that that's the only thing, so psychedelics does open that, and intention and nutrition. I mean, there's a lot of topics that are not taught in medical school, and it's like not included,
And I think that's where you and me and Brian connected here, is that, I think some people don't see this connection. Food, nutrition, psychedelic medicine, supplementation, herbal medicine. These are things that have been excised from Western medicine.
Yes.
And that's why we're failing. That's why people are so chronically ill. That's why people's quality of life is going down, and why we have such terrible outcomes when it comes to a virus that comes out and it just destroys our population, because people are not healthy because they're just looking at health through a very, very myopic lens, and they're not including all these things. There's this great book I'm reading, The Immortality Key, and it's a gentleman who studied he studied like Greek and Roman mythology, and he speaks Greek and a couple other languages. And he went in, and did you know about this?
No, what sounds
He basically went to look for evidence that religion is based in psychedelia. That really, when you were eating a piece of Christ or whatever, that really was a psychedelic. Maybe it was like a fungus growing on some barley. Maybe it was a concoction like a wine that's infused with a plant that causes a psychedelic experience. And in reality, a lot of our spiritual ideas that now tell us, oh, drugs are bad, actually came from these drugs. And that's where so much of our understanding about the world came from. And in this book, he actually goes back and is looking at pieces of pottery from back in biblical times, and basically like, look, there's evidence of this barley that has this mushroom that's psychedelic growing on it, and that was what these people were consuming to understand the world around them. And to me, that was so like elucidating, because I always saw this connection between like religion and our disconnect from the actual spirit, and it's just all books and rules and laws. But in reality, the goal is to understand our humanity and understand the world around us. And a time when it wasn't so dominating our like day-to-day lives, and instead religion was a tool to understand how the world works, and psychedelics were part of it. And I don't know. I know I'm going like, but this to me is like where what's missing in the world is it's a fear of drugs, right? Like we fear drugs, illegal drugs, but then all we do is prescribe legal drugs that don't really help. And there's this huge mismatch between, understanding someone like you and what you do, which is really try to heal people using natural remedies, and understanding what my colleagues do, which is just put Band-Aids on stuff and hope for the best and make drug companies a bunch of money. I know it's not that black and white, right? But I think that's what people need to hear. Like people listening to our podcast, like, yes, nutrition is the cornerstone of health. But when you start looking for ways to heal yourself and looking for ways to go to the next level, it's not some pharmaceutical. It's herbs, it's mushrooms, it's lifestyle changes, and it's all natural. It's all there, right? It's right there.
It's right there, yeah.
It's right there.
And a big component that I think, like I said, the physical world, for me, I look at it as 1%, and then the spiritual aspect of life, or the quantum field, is the 99% of our existence, which we don't really see. So if I see only 1% of the world, then I want to see 99, because 99 contains all the information. Okay, now, like I said, psychedelics has a key to open us to that wisdom. And in terms of healing, a big factor of healing is the mind, is the mental, emotional component. Huge. Sometimes way more than herbs. So if a person can take herbs, there's a bunch of stories about people that tried so many different therapies for all kind of things, and then they just had to release some kind of trauma or anger that they had with their father from age 5, and then the whole symptom disappeared. like disappeared because the body was holding onto something which was in the realm of the 99%, or if you will, the subconscious, or the area that we don't know, that we don't even know.
The vibrations that we don't know how to measure yet with our tools, but they're there.
There's actually Joe Dispenza measures brainwaves.
he
So
does.
yeah, so
Great.
they're trying to measure
They're
it.
trying, yeah.
And sometimes even in his workshops, people reach such a high level that it goes off the charts in the machinery. The machinery can't even measure how deep a person can go. Like when they go into those.
Yeah,
So
I've listened to Joe a lot. He's like really, really onto something there.
Yeah.
Really powerful guy.
Yeah. So it. What you said about religion, touch about that, and psychedelics. There's a whole thing about that Jesus was a mushroom. That
Really, I haven't heard that.
there's a whole. You go on YouTube. His message was basically the same message that a person gets. Well, when they're doing a trip on
Psilocybin.
psilocybin. So it's the same message that Jesus had. So there's a whole sightings and a whole story about that Jesus basically was a mushroom. And throughout the history, there was a guy that actually he passed a few months ago. His whole thing was the 30-gram dose,
Ooh,
Like a heroic dose.
the heroic dose, more than Stamets, yeah. And his whole thing, he said he would put a diaper, take it, and sit in bed, and he would travel into places like really deep places. And his whole discourses is showing where the mushroom shows up in different religions, in the Egyptian scriptures, and basically all these master plans, they activate our pineal gland. So the pineal gland, the gland that, in essence, we can release our own DMT molecule, which connects us to the spiritual realm, to that 99%, or the God molecule, or the God space, they activate the pineal gland, okay? Now, funny enough, the Pope, you know what he has on his cane? Not a cross, a pineal gland.
Oh, is that really what it
A
is?
pineal gland, yeah.
So they knew it. They've known this.
They've known this.
So there's this. So back to the book that I was talking about, The
Yes.
Mortality Key. It's based on work by Graham Hancock, and basically, there was during the Greek times a city called Eleusis, and all of the leaders, the thought leaders, would go there and have this secret ceremony, and they'd be inducted into this society. Not a society, but it was like a club, whatever you want to call
It was
it.
a rite of passage.
It was a
ceremony,
rite of
and
passage,
people would
thank you.
travel from all over the world and go there to have these. It's like a coming of age ceremony or rite of passage, something like that. Yeah.
And they would have this, and one of the things is they would not document it. There's no writings about it. It's very minimal writing. People would leave and they would talk about it in their sort of like lectures or in their writings, but it was part of the deal that like you don't share what you consumed, you don't share what happened there. There's some like accounts of like, yeah, you have these spiritual experiences, but it was mystified intentionally because it was this special sacred thing. And the idea is that as the Christianity took over, it sort of inherited that rite of passage ceremony, and that presumably inherited the psychedelic experience they were having, and then that evolved into Christianity, and then eventually Christianity got rid of the drugs and replaced it with pharmaceuticals and also with like just rules, right? Religion is all about rules. Follow these rules and you will be saved, and follow these rules and you will be good. But reality is, I think that it's about understand nature, understand the spiritual world around you, understand yourself, and that not just the 1% that you see in the mirror and that you look down at your hands, but that part that is deep that you can't put your finger on, but it affects how healthy you are. It affects how you operate on a day-to-day basis. And I think that the tool that we used for millennia, which were psychedelics and herbs and powerful mushrooms like you're suggesting, has been taken away from us. And I want people to think about that, because as we have the rules changing, as cannabis has become legal in many, many states, as we're going to start legalizing MDMA and psilocybin, and all of these things are coming. They're coming. There's a psychedelic revolution. It's coming. And instead of being fearful, and instead of being like not trusting. I want people to embrace it and understand that this is a part of human history. This is how we evolved, just like we evolved eating meat. We evolved fasting. We evolved, hunting and foraging and living with our natural world.
Being in the sun.
Being in the sun, thank you. We also evolved having these psychedelic experiences. And I really think it's that central to the human experience. And I think so many people are missing it. And maybe it doesn't have to be a full psychedelic, hallucinating in a diaper, pooping yourself, the whole thing. It doesn't have to be the heroic 30-gram dose, but I think there's just this really powerful tool that's finally going to become available, I hope, in the next few years that will unlock people's access to the 99%, as you say.
Yeah, that and I would say a practice for me is a really deep practice of meditation.
Yes.
Every day, because all these plants are pretty much guides, and they're master plans, they're guides, and they're teachers. And then what? So they open up the door and then increase the awareness. And then what do I do with that awareness of what I saw? Then I actually need tools to resolve whatever trauma it is, whatever. And there's tools. There's that's my other part, hypnotherapy, NLP, and like actual tools to dismantle the emotional, neurosis on its multifaceted expressions in each person. So this is one place where we don't want to replace, psychiatric drugs with psychedelics as a replacement or a cover, because that's a trap. It can be, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So it can be, oh, well, let me take all this every day and I'll become super aware. But wait, what do I do with all this awareness? And, interestingly enough, the master plants are smart as such that if a person abuses them, they'll hit a wall. So the plant will not give them that knowledge anymore. It will actually give them a bad trip. And then they'll say, oh, you got too much light.
The right trip. You had the trip that you were kind of setting yourself up for.
Because you overdid it. Or I've heard people who did mushrooms too many times in a row and then it doesn't work for them anymore. It's like they were intolerant to them anymore because you can't just keep doing them.
You can't, yeah. Because it gives you light information. It activates something, gives light information. Now work with it. Do something with it,
Well, that's a really good message. I like that because a lot of people just want to just keep doing it or they just rely on it. And you're talking about it's a tool and that you have to do your own practice of meditation or self-work beyond that and not just rely on a substance.
1,000,000%.
And really, I think, growing up, most of these drugs, including marijuana, have been vilified as like party drugs. And people just think about them as, oh, you do it and you go and like party with your friends and be crazy. But, I think in Michael Pollan, he recently wrote a book, How to Change Your Mind. And I really like how he laid it out. In order to find success with these drugs or even with meditation, right? Or even doing like having a breathing technique practice, you have to go through a process. You have to have an intention, right? You have to curate your space. So he called it set and setting, right? Have the right people around you, have the right environment set up. You don't just do it when you're not safe or some weird people around you. It's going to screw you up. And then you have an integration where like the light came. I got that, that moment of like, oh, wow, I can see past my ego, or my ego dissolves completely. And I realize that I'm an entity, part of this whole big world of energy, right? And then what do you do with that, right? Yeah. And I think that so many people that try something like psilocybin at a young age, when they're not empowered with that approach, they end up getting overwhelmed, have this crazy trip, and then get scared. And they even if they had something meaningful happen, they never integrate it and they never see what it means. And it's really sad because those often are the people that could benefit the most because they're doing it to suppress some feeling or to find some happiness because they have some trauma or something terrible happening. And, that's why I want to make this podcast and I want to work on my mental health program and I want to work with you so that we can open people's eyes to how powerful and transformative these things are. This isn't, hey, buy my pill and take it every day and thanks, here's, you're good. No, it's take this, understand what its purpose is use it in a meaningful way and change your life forever.
Right. Work with it. Yeah. Yeah, we're not born with an instruction book. No one is, So every knowledge, as you know, is acquired. You spent how many years?
Too many.
Too many. Is it 14?
Something like that. I don't
Well,
know.
total.
Better part of like a decade and a half or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So all knowledge is acquired, including the knowledge of how to do the self work. So the tools, there's different workshops, there's different seminars, there's different techniques. No one is born with that. And the youngster that took the psilocybin when they were young, they didn't have the tools to know how to deal with the doors that they opened of different pains that are coming out. Okay, what do I do with all this pain? Okay, a bad experience. No, it wasn't a bad experience. It's a master teacher. He told you something. He gave you something. What do I do with it? So now what I'm going to do with it, if I were that person, okay, there's specific workshops. There's landmark education. There's Tony Robbins. There's NLP. There's hypnosis. There's a bunch of stuff that work on the subconscious. Go study. You asked me earlier if a person comes to me. A big portion of what I give to them is what are you doing with your mental on a daily basis? If a person is not taking an issue a day and looking at it, then what are you doing?
You're wasting your time.
It's called the definition of insanity. So if I'm not looking at something and, like you said, set an intention, what am I want to look on today in my personality and to transform that through my own processes? And then the plants and the other things are helpers. They're always there. The main thing is like I said, the 99%, and that is access through meditation and supported by the plants, yes. And then acquiring the tools, yeah. So I'm a big proponent of people going studying, doing the workshops and doing the seminars and then, and getting a coach and going to a hypnotherapist or whatever. It's not a shame or it's not wrong. It's not, no one is like, oh yeah, I have problems, then I'm a problem. No, yeah. We all have stuff to deal with.
Right. Well, you're echoing that idea of how mental health issues for the, majority of my time on earth has been like vilified and like you're supposed to like pretend that you don't have mental health problems. And I think one of the silver linings with the whole COVID pandemic will be that there's so much mental health issues. Everyone is susceptible to it. Like no one is escaping this. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how protected you are. Like everyone is suffering right now. Everyone on some level. And I think that I hope that it will allow people to talk about it more openly and look for more and more options to heal themselves. Because what's happening now is not, even if we get a handle on this infection, even if eventually one of these vaccines will be really, really effective, the real outcome of COVID, as we talked about in our previous podcast, is the mental health disaster that it's leaving. It's the people that are going to be anxious forever. It's the people that have been stuck in their house for a year. It's the people who have lost their loved ones and their loved ones have died alone in a room in some nursing home and they couldn't be there and they're going to feel guilt and shame and sadness. Like this is the real fallout that's coming. And that's, we're just scratching the surface. Like I have like tons of patients coming into my clinic and oftentimes the only tool I do have is some kind of benzodiazepine or an antidepressant. Because that's what I have right now. I can't give them a spiritual leader. I can't give them a psilocybin experience or an MDMA experience. But that's coming. And that's what we're hoping for. But I think that, your work and what we're talking about here, it's the future of the next decade as we recover from this nightmare. Like, I honestly believe that. Like, if we don't bring psychedelia and if we don't bring spirituality, if we don't bring natural medicines, everything from supplements to food to your herbs and mushrooms, we're going to like lose ourselves as humans.
Yeah,
I honestly
it's happening. There's an awakening to it.
You think so?
I think there's a more of an opening to it.
There's an opening. Not quite an awakening yet.
An opening to listen. Now people understand the necessity of, instead of waiting for something to hit, okay, let me consider that I need to take care of my immune system on a daily basis as a consistent daily habit versus an occasional vitamin C when I get a cold. So there's a little bit more of, okay, look, I have one of my formulas that people came to me and told me that it helped them go through the corona.
Sure. Can you share that with us?
It's called Sacred C.
Sacred C.
And
C.
remember I mentioned to you that I was working with some biblical herbs. And one of them is frankincense. And
So I know your mouth's away from the mic. So
Oh.
Nissim is pulling out one of his products called Sacred Sea, and apparently it contains a biblical herb called frankincense.
So frankincense is anti-inflammatory. It's calming for IBS. It's has lung support. It's some people cure cancer with it. Strong lung support, and also two things that it does, which are similar to CBD. It's anti-anxiety and it's anti-neurotic. So yeah, interesting.
This is amazing.
So this combination has frankincense. It has agaricon. Agaricon, if you saw the picture, familiar picture with Paul Stamets holding a huge mushroom, that's agaricon, and that has lung support, and also they use it antiviral and boost the immune system. So go ahead.
I noticed there's elderberry. Well, you call it Sacred Sea. Does it have ascorbic acid, vitamin C?
It from acerola.
That's what I was sorry.
From the natural
Yeah,
plant
full
source,
plant.
full
Yes,
plant
full
source.
plant, yeah.
So I think that's important. I'm a big proponent of supplementation in general, but whenever I can, I want to get the cleanest, most potent forms, the most bioavailable. So if we can go directly to the plant, directly to the,
Exactly.
Yes.
I don't use isolates. I use whole plants.
I love it.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting to me? You're talking about plant-based, and I think that triggers some of our users or listeners, because we're kind of in this war against the meat-based, against the plant-based. But for me, I always think, and a lot of people have brought this up, through comments and just talking to people, is that throughout history, I think we got a lot of the most bioavailable nutrition from the animal foods, and then we use plants to heal us. Right. That was, I mean, of course we did, subsist on plants, and they're fine, throughout history, and we use them as food, but we got the best nutrition from the animal foods, and we got the best healing from the plants.
Yes, and I also use other plants or deer antler, black ant. So those are animals.
Animal, yeah. So I think what Brian was getting at, and it should be clarified, because there is this battle.
Put it on
going
your tongue.
Is this like about
Brian's
this
trying-
amount? Like
Yeah, yeah.
a little-
It's- yeah.
Brian's trying the Sacred Sea.
It's sweet.
I see Brian's immune system getting stronger.
Oh, it tastes good.
Yeah, it has freeze dried banana and freeze dried mango, and it actually helped people. People came to me and said, "Hey, we had Corona, and this is
Like
what
this
helped
one?
us go through it, even more." Yeah,
I'll take it all.
Don't breathe it in.
yeah, that's good.
You need a little water to wash it down. No, it tastes good, and I'm a fan of the acerola cherry. I was looking at doing a product.
Cool. Do you recommend if people are interested in this to take it the way we did, or
Yeah.
mix it into a
Best absorption is just the way you did it. That was one of the things that I did. I have other
Cool.
different formulas that can be either in capsule and powder form. And in for instance, in Chinese medicine, a lot of the herbs are prescribed as raw herbs, and then you make a tea, right? And you drink the tea because the best absorption is through the taste buds and through the mouth. Because every herb, according to Chinese medicine, has a signature. And the body is introduced to the signature of the herb through the taste buds. So they want you to taste the herb. Therefore, the absorption compared to capsule is way better on the tongue.
Can I make a point really quick?
Yes.
I've said it before, but I got to say it again. This idea of Chinese medicine, Eastern medicine versus Western medicine, maybe some people are listening to this going, what kind of powders are they taking? What is this nonsense? Right? I just want people to know that medicine and healing for thousands and thousands and thousands of years came through these formulations, through natural plants. It wasn't until the early 1900s, through a complicated process that included something called the Flexner Reports, where American companies essentially cut out anything that was not driven by pharmaceuticals.
They delegitimized it.
So if you had a gentleman like Nissim, healing people from COVID, in 1910, and he was
Helping their body
helping their body, whatever.
heal itself.
Heal itself. I love it. Yes, you're right. You're right. And by the way, as an
Support it.
osteopathic physician, one of my principles in osteopathy peeled away from allopathic medicine for this reason, that we believe that the body has a natural mechanism to heal itself. And our job, my job as a physician, is to guide patients' bodies to heal themselves, right? So and back when osteopaths first started, they were vilified as quacks and not real healers. And I just want people to realize this about history, because we talk about the history of food a lot, but we're talking about drugs and medicine today, and it's the same effing story. They went and looked at the situation and said, oh, well, we can use our power, we can use our task forces and organizations and this society and that society to basically get rid of anything that's not going to be in our pocket. And that's what they did. And allopathic medicine came to be because its goal was to rid the body of disease, whether giving a medicine and getting rid of the disease, or taking surgery and cutting out the disease. That's allopathic medicine, which makes a lot of sense. If you come back from war and you got a broken arm, you got to fix that arm, or you got to cut it off. Otherwise, you're going to get gangrene and die. So there's obviously a very powerful role for Western medicine. When you go to the emergency room, something terrible happened, we can save your life. That's where it really does a really great job. But when it comes to the 99%, when it comes to thriving on a day-to-day basis on a spiritual, emotional level, our medicine is useless, essentially. And it comes from the history of America, and it really is America, because America exported its Western medicine practices just like it exported its food medicine or its food practices to the world and poisoned the world. And we did that with our Western medicine. And in other parts of the world where Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, like India, where it was more anchored, because again, America is just a couple hundred years old. These other countries are thousands and thousands of years old, and they have people that have been healing other humans for tens of thousands of years, right? We are lost. We are lost. And so I think that for some listeners, this might be like a weird podcast, right? Mm-hmm. We're sitting here trying mushroom extracts and talking about spirituality, but it's the same thing as eating a healthy diet. It's inputting healthy products and thinking about the world in a healthy way so that you can thrive. And the fact that some of the medicines are illegal is deplorable and part of a drug war that was misguided, economically disastrous, and now seems to be over, and people don't realize how screwed up it is that we made all these drugs illegal and deleted real meaningful modalities to heal. I don't know. I just wanted to share that because this is directly connected to everything we talk about on all of our other podcasts. It's just more risque to talk about psychedelics, right?
No, because I didn't get into it. I'm still not really educated on it, but it still seems woo-woo to me even. But I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm open to these ideas because I know it's the same thing that happened with food and health, and they hijacked it, and they hijacked this thing, and it made it sound. So it's still the propaganda. It is propaganda. I mean, that's what propaganda is changing your mind about something. And that happened to me where I thought, oh, this stuff is bogus, or anything of these like natural healing methods are bogus. And now I have to undo that, and I am open to it. And I hope people listening are open to that, because there is more to it. And if you don't want to take you don't believe in the mushrooms, then don't take the mushrooms. But there's all these other things that we can talk about. Well, I wanted to ask you, we don't want to be reactive. You want to be proactive. So maybe you could talk about everything in allopathic model is reactive when something already went wrong. Or COVID, it's like, oh, what do we do now? Something already went wrong. But how do you be proactive in immune health and in staying healthy?
That's a really good question. That was actually one of the reasons that I created Immunity Herbals with a friend. A friend came over one day. He's listening to us in the other room. Mm-hmm. And he said, hey, you have all these products. Let's focus on immunity right now. So we took eight formulas that are focused on immunity. The proactive approach, the bottom line, my stuff or any other stuff is a maintenance. There's no quick fixes. The allopathic model thinks that it can do a quick fix, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't exist. Have you ever plant a mango tree and expect a mango to grow in the morning? No. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of a mindset of like, oh, where's the next pill? Where's the quick fix? Where's the surgery? Where's the injection? Let's get it done. Patience. This is where the Western mindset of, first of all, maintaining health. So if it's any types of herbs, adaptogens, things that calm down the nervous system, um, superfoods like spirulina or chlorella or different types of nutrition. So good nutrition. It includes meats as well, whole good clean foods on a daily basis. So it's the consistency versus waiting till the condition. Sometimes the condition is so strong, when you get to it, that nothing can help. If we can we talk about cancer or not? Good?
You can.
As an example.
It's okay. Look, some of this stuff is going to upset people. I think we're all kind of beating around that bush. I think anyone listening should be open-minded and understand that everything we're talking about has a lot of nuance, and we're just trying to present novel ideas about how to take care of yourself. So, yeah, I think if you have something to say about cancer, we talk about cancer. We talk about cancer being a metabolic disease, that people who have obesity, diabetes, chronic inflammation states from a terrible processed food diet are high risk for cancer, and that when you change to a low carbohydrate, low processed food diet, include healthy fats, that you're going to do better. Now, the evidence is only just starting to trickle in about that, but we talk about that all the time. And there's what's the gentleman who wrote the great book about cancer and
Well, there's Thomas Seyfried.
That's right.
Yeah.
Seyfried is a person in our community that talks about, healing cancer as a metabolic disease using ketosis and intermittent fasting and these strategies. So what do you have to say about cancer?
Oh, okay. Well, the whole thing is cancer is like an example of when the body's too much out of balance, physically, emotionally, mentally. Because cancer in the physical manifestation of it is the body localizing toxins. I can't deal with all these toxins of these, fast food or whatever it is. It can be also an anger, a regret, the emotional stuff, the emotional trauma. I can't deal with all this. It's hitting the organ again and again and again. Let me localize it. I'm going to localize it, create a tumor. Then there's more toxin coming in, then the tumor becomes malignant, right? It starts spreading. Okay, that's when cancer spreads through the whole body. It's toxicity. Okay, now sometimes people reach where the toxicity is already too much that it took over the system. Now we don't want to reach that. We want to maintain a clean terrain. So it's clean food, it's herbs of high quality. Like I can wait years for the right ingredients. That's one of my things. Like I do the sourcing. I know exactly who I'm sourcing from. It's small farmers. It's just little operations, not big companies. I've confronted, talking about, here's another whole thing. Most of the natural food world is owned by the pharmaceutical company. I hope it don't kill me, but 90% of it, okay, is owned by the system. So whoever's left with the real pure herbs are not that many, because the whole industry of supplements makes billions and billions of dollars from really low quality herbs. And I've sourced for years, for decades, for the right herbs, for the right suppliers that I know where their mindset is, I know where their heart is, and it's just not just about, oh, here, let me sell you all this, here, ashwagandha, here, but it's crap, So you want to take high quality herbs on a daily basis and also maintain the mental and emotional component. Like if I'm holding on to a grudge from age 5, that's like a pressure cooker cooking a stew. Imagine that if I have like an old anger, old trauma, that's a stew brewing inside of me. Okay, and I cook a stew for 8 years and open it, it stinks. That's cancer. That's manifestation cancer.
One
can
way
be
to think about it. Yeah.
Any other, it's a holistic. So it is nutrition, and it is the emotional component. It's bottom line is toxicity. Like B-Champ said, the terrain versus the germ theory versus the terrain. So the terrain is an emotional terrain and a physical terrain, and we're complex systems. So it's a constant daily maintenance versus the one pill that will solve it all. Forget about it. Doesn't exist. Quick fix. Don't exist. Don't even try it. You can try it, but it doesn't work.
So can you share with us, like, and maybe you can't, but like some of the key components to some of your immunity products?
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to ask that, and also like some of the, you were calling them like master plants, like just share some, because I think a lot of people don't have any idea, about elderberry even,
So Okay, so the ingredients are different types of medicinal mushrooms. So a lot of people have heard about reishi, chaga, turkey tail, lion's mane, the main mushrooms that are used for immunity. And even interestingly enough, there's doctors that work to see how it works in conjunction with chemo, in conjunction with to help people heal from the damages of chemo and radiation therapy. They use specific mushrooms. There's entire site. I spent like weeks and weeks. I was amazed that the medical society is open to the medicinal value of mushrooms. Amazing. So I use those mushrooms that are actually cited in medical sightings for their impact on the immunity, on increasing immunity markers and different type of blood cells in the body
and decreasing inflammatory markers. I know that's a big part of it. Yeah.
Amazing. Like
So what are the names again? I'm trying to learn it, and I know the listeners want to. The main ones:
reishi, chaga, cordyceps, lion's mane, turkey tail, oyster mushroom, agaricus, agaricon.
Gary.
Garycon.
There you go.
It's your transformer.
Yeah.
Those are the main mushrooms that I use. And then herbs, Chinese herbs like astragalus, goji, shizandra, ginkgo, ginseng are a lot of these herbs are used in Daoist medicine as herbs that you can take every day, just like food. And there's sightings, which I choose to believe, about Daoist monks that lived over 200. And they dosed, what's their secret? Okay, first 7 years, Shizandra. Second 7 years, Goji, and that's what they do. A lot of tea from it. A lot. Elderberry, I use some Western herbs. So elderberry, acerola cherry, hyssop, for instance, has lung support, antiviral. So I use it in this formula, the Sacred Sea. And then a bunch of Ayurvedic herbs that also lower the stress response, are anti-inflammatory. I'm kind of giving the context because the name, So anti-inflammatory, reducing the stress response on a cellular level. And therefore, you would agree if I reduce the stress response in a cell, it would live longer. The whole organ would live longer. So we would conclude that there are longevity, tonic, adaptogen herbs, which is...
What are some of those?
The Chinese ones that I mentioned. Then we have the Indian ones is bacopa, ginkgo biloba, celastrus, which is called the intelligence tree. So I also have like entire formulas that are nootropic.
Nootropic. That's what I want. I want some of those. I love me some nootropics.
You like that?
Oh yeah.
I've tried a bunch of different nootropics, and they're always mushroom blends of the things that you're talking about, and I find them to be effective. Like
yes,
very, very effective. Even, to varying degrees, but
everyone has their formula that works.
Yeah.
For them. Yeah.
I want to try yours.
Yeah. I work with a lot of Lotus, for instance. Lotus is anti-inflammatory on a big level and also increases awareness and consciousness and heart opening. So in the realm of emphatogens, just like MDMA. Emphatogen.
Oh, empathy. Oh,
yeah, emphatogen.
I've never heard that. I love it.
Yeah, like MDMA is emphatogen.
Right.
So yeah. So a lot of lotuses, about 6 different lotuses I work with from Thailand. A plant called Kana, which is from South America. It's a succulent, and they use it for depression. Amazing. So every place has their wisdom, and what can I do and to be a person to just facilitate that wisdom in the best, highest quality that there is, and tell people, hey, take this in here. We made it easy. We brought you a spoon with our little design. All you need to do, there's 3 different formulas or 4.
Can I
take a quarter of it? Take a quarter of each one a day. Work out, do your meditation, and you're good. And good diet. Of course, clean diet. Watch what you eat.
Yeah, I think clean diet is the thing that we really see eye to eye on, is making sure that whatever you're consuming, whether it's a plant or an animal, is of the highest quality.
Yeah.
And is not adulterated with chemicals. I'm sure you abuse the animals that are mistreated are not going to provide very high quality.
That's always tricky, to find the right one, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of what we talk about. I don't want to belabor our whole sapien diet thing. Everyone's heard it, and you can listen to all of our podcasts.
Strongly believe it.
Yeah.
100%.
I have one question. So, meditation. So, meditation is this incredibly powerful tool. I'm curious what your thoughts on it. Personally, I feel like meditation can be completed through a variety of different modalities, right? Like everyone just thinks about the gentleman or the person sitting down, in a knees crossed, doing this and just like not doing anything. Whereas like for me personally, I go into meditative states when I'm playing music or when I'm running. Like I run not for like exercise per se. I run because I am the most. What do you? Am I Is that what you just described, or do you really think I have to sit there and like not do anything and just work on my breath? I'm just curious.
Well, you're right that the prevalent idea of meditation is just sitting there and doing nothing. And then there's a different level to that. The whole thing of meditation is observation. Okay, so in the Kabbalah, they call it also, if we translate it to Hebrew, it's itbonenut, so looking at. Okay, so I'm looking at, I'm observing something. Because I want to be the observer that goes out of the programming in the noise and observe the noise. Okay, let me see what's going on, and all I need to observe and become aware of what I'm running 24/7, and is it working for me or not. So deciphering between I don't want that, that takes some work. So the meditation is the observation. So the simplistic way, there's more for relaxation and just focusing on the breathing and just being and listening to being in the present moment. And then if I want to do an actual process, a specific process, like you said, set an intention. Like, what do I want to work on inside of myself? Connect to it. Where is that emotion? Where is that issue sitting inside of me? Connect to it. And then there's a guided version of meditation that, in hypnotherapy, it's a version of it. So I'll do a session for hypnotherapy.
It's really it's meditation. Hypnotherapy is essentially
Exactly.
meditation. We've just named it something different.
Yes. It's an induced way for the person to reach the deeper places of their subconscious quicker than they could get on their own. So I'll do a session for someone. I'll record it for them, and then they can go back and get right back into that deeper place and explore and start resolving according to the intention that they set of, okay, I want to look at this, I want to look at that. So I would say meditation is very active.
It's active.
Active. And there's a saying, a person needs to be an active participant in their own saving. Sorry, Jesus is not going to come and save you.
I love that.
Jesus is great. His message is great. He gave you some work to do. Spend your lifetime and get that get to it.
I brought up the running because there's a lot of this theories that we evolved running long distances, and when we were upright, we were able to like chase down animals and catch our. It's like a theory of how we evolved, and how running is this like really primitive mechanism in your mind that when you're like running, like you're not thinking about one foot in front of the other. It's just like a program running in your head, and I've read about that a lot, and it's just this idea that when you go on a run, you activate this primitive mechanism that is just running. It's no pun intended, but it's operating in the background, and it separates yourself from that place of ego that you live in every day. Like, I am Gary, this is me, like this is what I'm at, this is how I act, this is what people expect from me. But instead, when I'm like in the run, it like triggers like a separation from that, and that's where I can become that observer that you're talking about and look out and see, maybe I don't need to be worried about that. Maybe I don't need to be anxious about that. Maybe I should, change this and that. And I think that there's different ways to do it. There's different ways, and I think everyone needs to think about that. That yes, I think sitting there and like focusing on your breath or setting an intention, that's one way. But there's many, many ways to separate your ego, yourself from your ego. And the ego is this idea of like who you are, what everyone expects you to be, and then separating it and realizing you're just the observer. You're just watching yourself do all this shit, and that you could at any moment decide to not, or decide to do, or decide to change.
Observing the behavior versus being an automatic program that, They said this, now I'm going to react. He
Right.
said this, I'm going to react. Well, who's reacting? What's reacting? I'm reacting to something that happened to me at age 3, which this just happened again right now, and I'm reacting versus responding. Like you said, responding, being proactive versus reacting in the moment.
And the only way to be that reactive or that responsive
Responsive.
person is to pull yourself away from your programming and from the mental milieu that you've created and that the world's created. And I think, again, I really think that that's the silver lining with this whole COVID thing is you are not that anxious person sitting in your house worried about COVID. You are the person observing all of this, and you can choose to change your life and use all of this as a tool and an opportunity to make yourself stronger, or you don't, and then you're a victim of the circumstance. And I think that back to our psychedelic conversation, back to the idea of using these natural products to give yourself like strength and healing and opportunities, and it only happens if you're willing to do what we call the shadow work, the work in the background, the separating yourself from your ego and realizing that you have a choice every day of like how you see the world. And all you need to do is pull yourself away. But pulling yourself away and become the observer is incredibly challenging, especially in a world of screens and fear and terrible food. Because the food fucks you up. Don't get it twisted. When you eat that hamburger full of chemicals and processed oils and sugar, it messes with your hormones.
Nervous system.
It messes with your nervous system. And you do not have the power to pull yourself away. I think a lot of the benefits that people experience from ketosis, right? People that are intermittent fasting frequently or in a very low carb state, it's because their hormones find more of an equilibrium and they can think more clearly because they're not so drowned in this like non-equilibrium, for lack of a better word. It actually helps you find that equilibrium. I mean, a lot of monks and people that used to do psychedelic therapies do it in a fasted state for that reason, because it's a more lucid, it's a more neurochemically balanced state.
Clean, yeah.
It's clean, for lack of a better word.
People that do ayahuasca ceremonies, they have a certain diet that they need to adhere to for the medicine to flow better through them. And some people that do not a good diet, they say, I didn't feel anything. Well, what'd you eat? I ate pork and sugar and salt and spices and chili until the last day. You can't really do that.
You can't really do that.
You have to, the diet is big time. One of my journeys started around food. When I was 18, I got exposed to first of all, to Chinese medicine, then to naturopathy. And there was a lady that wrote a book. She healed herself from cancer with natural foods, with foods alone. And then she got pregnant and she went to the doctor and said, hey, I'm completely healed. And here I have a baby also, So, there was so I went to India and I studied a lot of things. And one of them was naturopathy for a long time and fasting and really experimenting with food. And I fasted for long times on, like mono diet, on specific fruits, specific juices for a long time.
What's a long time?
Several months.
Wow.
Several months. Yeah, I lost tons of weight and no sugars, no salt, no peppers, like really, really clean from even any spices. And I had experiences like mystical experiences. Back then, I didn't know what psychedelics. I didn't even know what pot was. I did not even grow with that. And there was experiences where I saw the universe working. I don't know how to explain it, but I saw those moments where I realized, there's not even a waste of 1 second in the universe. The mind or the ego can think. The universe or that 99, that's, looking back, maybe that's what I got connected to through the cleanliness of the body, so got insights from that place. Like, oh, wow, I'm seeing the universe working. This is trippy. But it takes some time to clean and to sensitize the body. From that experience on, I could tell you any food that I ate if it's clean or not. Anything every snack, when I bought peanuts or something, no. That's not good. Yeah. I could feel it in a second. So the body's able to tune in.
You're tuned in. What's interesting is there's so many ways to get to that place. you're talking about that plays through like clean dieting or fasting, and some people say they do it through meditation. Some people do it through breath work, I've heard. And then there's the actual psychedelics. And I kind of wanted to touch on the 99%, because when I first met you, we talked very deeply, very quickly about, I have had 3 of these journeys into the 99%. And I absolutely believe it's there. And people who haven't been to that realm maybe think it's bogus or stupid, but it's there. And there's different ways to get there. And maybe if you don't want to do psychedelics, you could try to get there through the other modalities. I said breathwork, meditation, whatever. But
Even intense
it is there. It is there. Oh yeah, yeah. You can get to these flow states, but I mean, I have been to a world beyond my ego and beyond physical universe, and I thought there was no physical universe, and it was very interesting. Very interesting.
Every time I imagine you, Brian, in that state, it makes me laugh so much.
Oh, I've been to some realms.
I do. I think that we should, as we're wrapping this up, I really want to talk about psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. That's a new term, new old term. In the 50s and 60s, we were helping people using psychedelics. Then the drug war, and now we're in a disastrous place. And finally, people, I don't know, the government, I don't know, someone stopped this drug war, or at least trying to stop it. And we've opened our doors to cannabis as a healing modality. We've opened our doors to ketamine. Ketamine is a plant-derived chemical that is very powerful disassociative. There's psilocybin, which is a mushroom chemical that is very psychotropic. And then there's MDMA, which is a synthesized, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, ultimately also derived. What's that?
Comes from
Yeah, exactly. Ultimately derived. And even LSD, while LSD is not currently being used as a treatment modality, also comes from a plant alkaloid. So all of these psychedelics, I think, are the future of mental health.
Yes.
And I think that re-educating and reintroducing them to the public I feel that it's like my mission. I'm pretty sure that's your mission as well. What do you think? Do you think it's that powerful? Do you think it's going to change our perspective on mental health in the Western medicine world, or do you think we're still a long way away from that?
I think exactly like you said, that it is the next level. Here's the thing: traditional therapy, marriage and licensed family therapists or psychologists, there's a limit to where psychology can get. There's a limit to where NLP can get. There's a limit to where hypnotherapy can get. Flat out, I've studied it, I've seen it. If you don't go to the God element, you can call it God, I can call it, a shoe, whatever you want to call that place that religion is trying to explain, that field, the
I like the 99%.
The 99%.
I love it.
If I don't include that woo-woo, so to speak, in my therapy, then what am I doing? Focusing on the 1%, sitting on a chair and talking about my problems for 25 years. And then after 25 years, this guy made a lot of money, but I'm still confused. So what's the point? So the psychedelics, they open the door for a person to reach and get in touch and see that 99%, or that place where, here's the thing. You said non-physical. If we're looking at an atom, take an atom and blow it up to the size of a car. The electron will be the size of a bean, a small bean. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's some neutrons and protons, but they're very small. The rest of it is what?
Space. Vibrations.
So we are made of organs, molecules, atoms, and most of our atoms are
empty space. Yeah. Oh, that's. I was gonna bring that up. It's the same thing. The 99. Yeah. Same thing.
But really, the way I like to play with that idea is that it's not just space; it's a vibration. All of these neutrons, electrons, protons are actually exist in a vibratory state. They're here, they're there, they're here, they're there. They're on a continuum of movement. I think about it as the sinusoidal wave, right? It's positive, negative, positive, negative. I think that's where this idea of the yin and yang come from. Like, I think that managing those vibrations or accessing those vibrations is that 99%. So that empty space is actually a movement. It's not a physical thing, but it's a movement of flux. And I think that when you have an experience with psilocybin or something similar, you see it literally helps you take that 99% that's not visual or you can't see it, and it visualizes it for you. You know, maybe the most extreme version of that is something like LSD that literally takes these vibrations, takes sound waves, and it puts it in your visual cortex, and it creates like an image out of it or something, and it realizes it. And I think that when people realize that you're not just high, you're not just like, it's not a hallucination. If it was a hallucination, everyone would have a different hallucination. When people take these medicines, they have very, very similar experiences because they're accessing that 99%. And that 99% is a very real thing that exists around us. So when, we have this like, people taking LSD and like they all see the same color patterns and stuff, it's because they're accessing a thing that exists there and it all looks the same to us. When people take psilocybin and they feel connected with nature and and it's such a common experience, they feel like the tree is talking to them. It's not literally talking to them, but it is. The tree is alive and it has energy, and that energy is not palpable. But when you take something that gives you access to this higher level, it lets you feel that. And boy, is it powerful to realize that there is so much more around us than this 1%.
Right.
And I think that alone, that realization alone is incredibly powerful. But then when you set an intention, when you surround yourself with love, and then when you do that work afterwards, that's where the real transformation happens.
Because that's where infinite intelligence and possibility exist. Possibility within if we take it like on a scientific explanation of the word, the whole concept of possibility is something else than I know is possible is there. Okay, what is that? That's possibility. That exists within an unmanifested realm or physical realm somewhere. Where is that existing? It's quantum physics says it exists in a quantum field as a possibility. The quantum scientist says what? They look at an electron through an electron microscope. When they look at it, it's there. When they turn their eyes, it's gone back into 99%, into gone. So we create by intending some possibility which exists within that realm of possibilities, within that infinite intelligence, within that 99%. So if you ask me, I want to spend more time in that 99% because that will determine my 1%. And that will also help me resolve any of my own issues. Way more powerful to resolve them when I'm from a place of infinite intelligence and light supporting me, which all religions try to explain and call it God.
And that's the real connection, is that religions in general are trying to explain that which is not explainable.
Yeah.
And that is the beauty of religion, because it actually tries to propose something very meaningful and very ultimately healing and helpful. And I think that a lot of the knowledge that came from religion came from having these psychedelic experiences.
Yes.
And I think that through the decades, we've lost that. And I really hope people open their mind to it. So there's a couple chemicals I want to talk about specifically because they're available to people or are going to be available to people. So cannabis, for sure. Cannabis is a powerful tool. I think about cannabis as an amplifier. If you're lazy and depressed, don't smoke weed. It's going to make you more lazy and depressed, especially if you don't set an intention. If you're creative and constructing something, smoke a little weed and it might help you amplify
Expand
that,
it, yeah.
right? Some people smoke a little pot and go for a long run and have a meditative experience, et cetera, et cetera. So marijuana has this like powerful tool that it can really amplify whatever experience you're having. I don't know that it takes you to the 99%. I think it just kind of helps modulate your feelings and your thoughts. And I think that it can be very, very powerful. And it should also be noted that all marijuana is not the same. There's many, many strains, and different strains have different effects. So just like these mushroom products have different effects, different strains of marijuana, some will be more sedating, some will help with appetite, which is important for a cancer patient that's not eating. Some will help you think more quickly or creatively, like a sativa, and that's very, very powerful when you're trying to accomplish some kind of project or whatever. It could act as a nootropic essentially. So I think that even just discussing cannabis, there's very many effects and powers and sort of nuance to it because it's a group of plants. It's not just one plant. There's many, many strains. Then you have ketamine. Ketamine is in Western medicine used as an anesthetic. It's used for anesthesia because it doesn't suppress your breathing and it puts you into like a dreamlike state. But ketamine is a dissociative hypnotic. It actually does what we were talking about. It helps you in your mind separate from the present. It helps you sort of take your consciousness and look at your brain from the side, almost like a chemically induced hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you more susceptible to thinking about the world as a result in a different way because you've now realized that, hey, if I'm in this crazy loop of thinking of depression and anxiety, I can pull myself away from it. Now, that might be really scary for some people, but it might be really healing and powerful and transformative for many, many people. It's been ketamine's been shown to be very powerful for addiction. And I think it's because it does that, is when you're in an addictive process, you're in a loop of like needing this thing and over and over again, and you have nowhere else to go because you're stuck in your head. But when you take this chemical and it separates you from that, you realize I don't need that. I can create a new loop. I can create a different path.
Yeah.
And then it goes deeper where there's these studies showing that it actually does that on a neuron level where it creates new neuron growth, and it actually encourages neuroplasticity. And there's a lot of evidence looking at ketamine for that. Wow. So ketamine has this like experiential power, and then it has this neuroplasticity, actually like a cellular effect. And then when you pair that with a psychotherapy, a hypnotherapy, or some kind of like behavioral modality, you can really unlock doors in your mind.
Assisted, yeah.
It's really psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. And then you have psilocybin. Psilocybin is a chemical from some of these mushrooms that is very powerful in, and maybe you correct me if I'm wrong, psilocybin helps people realize what the natural world is around them. I feel like many, many people that take it are like, they connect with the plant world. They connect with the sky, with
Mm-hmm.
the natural world. There's something about psilocybin that connects you with nature.
Yes. It balances also both hemispheres of the brain, so the person can acquire a different perspective around a certain subject in their life, of whatever they want to look at. So like you said, it's like observing specific programs or specific ways that I'm used to think, and it gives me a break out of that or a place to observe. But the main thing, a big thing with psilocybin also, from my experience, it's about letting go into it versus trying to control it, because it's its own master. It will take me exactly where I need to go and what I need to look at. So if I try to fight that or control that, or think, but it's just like a mood drug, let me feel good for a second and control it, it's not. That's where bad trips, so to speak. Okay, it's taking me somewhere because I need to look. Let me trust that because that's a master plant and it knows what it's doing and it's safe. If I didn't take 100 grams, even
and you need a diaper.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's interesting. These chemicals we're also talking about. Another way people should think about is, they are ego dissolving drugs. They're drugs that you have to let yourself go. Otherwise, it's not going to be good, because they take away what it is you think you are, and they show you something that does not yet exist in your world. Right. That dissolves your ego, and that can be scary. In America, the most popular fun drugs, right? Nicotine, alcohol, cocaine, or some other stimulant, Adderall, Vyvanse, all these other stimulants, right? They're commonly abused drugs. Those are all ego building.
Yes.
They make you feel more powerful. They make you more in your head. And ultimately, that's poisonous because it doesn't heal you. It just makes you feel good transiently.
Compound.
And then you need more of that shit, and then more of that shit, and it doesn't get you anywhere. Yeah, it compounds that feeling. So I think people listening should realize that drugs aren't all the same, and there's some that really affect your spiritual self in this positive healing way, and there's other ones like cocaine that are destructive of who you are. And we've all known someone, or at least seen a show about someone who starts doing that stuff, and they're lost to themselves almost. They get lost in themselves and their own neuroses and own like habits.
Oh, we need to wrap this up soon, but I totally agree. I think more people need to dissolve their ego. I think that's a big problem in the world. You see big personalities out there in the world that could have a major change if they were more introspective and kind of did this type of stuff. So I'm interested in the future of this stuff, and maybe Dr. Gary can wrap it up with his ideas for the mental health part of Evolve, and then we'll
Then I want Nissim to share with everyone how they can reach out to him, find his products. So really quick, I think that we will have legalized medical use psilocybin and MDMA. We didn't get to MDMA, but that's okay. We'll have those clinics popping up over the next few years here. I think that the trials on the psilocybin are almost concluded, and it's funded by the VA administration because so many of our vets are suffering. And it's both, the MDMA is coming first because it's so powerful for PTSD and it's overwhelming. And those trials are coming to an end, and that's going to become available to people here in the next few years. Psilocybin is not far behind. I think ultimately psilocybin will have more of a ubiquitous benefit. I think that more people will benefit from either microdosing or having a couple of these mystical experiences in a controlled setting. I think that the world needs it. I think MDMA will end up being a really powerful tool for people with like emotional trauma, PTSD, and it'll help them unlock their emotional states and really. And then I think obviously cannabis is something that people have misunderstood for decades and decades, and I think it's a great tool for many people, and it also is not good for many people, and we have to be thoughtful about all our use of all of this stuff. And then lastly, ketamine clinics are already popping up around the country. I've worked to develop a ketamine program at my practice, Evolve Healthcare. I think ketamine is not for everyone, but out of the drugs we talked about, it's the only one that's legally available right now, and it can really help, especially for people with addiction problems and certainly anxiety and depression. It's also something to consider. Suicide. But I think that really the future is having a practitioner such as yourself, myself, working together to create a comprehensive program that includes nutrition, that includes maybe some pharmaceuticals, that includes herbs and mushrooms, and then some of these really transformative experiences in a controlled setting, not every day, but with a goal, with an intention, and a real team of healers around you. And I think that that's the only way we're going to get ourselves out of this disaster that we're currently in. And I do think that the medical community is opening their minds to it. So I'm optimistic about mental health in the future. And so Nissim, tell us, how can people find you?
So I have nativemystic.com or immunityherbals.com, and if anyone has any questions or would like to ask me more questions about what I do, about what we talked about, you can feel free to contact me anytime. I have Immunity Herbals also on Instagram and on Facebook, and a lot of people can contact me in there. And
they can buy the products there as well?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What do you have a handle for yourself? You're not like social media guy, right?
Yeah. At Immunity Herbals.
Okay.
That's Instagram, and I think
it's at native_mystic.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yeah, you got it.
I saw that somewhere. I don't know how I know that.
More than me.
I don't know that.
Yeah, and Facebook is pretty much, Immunity Herbals or Native Mystic. You'll find it there. I think right now they're connected, aren't they? Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, you can.
It's all just
post
one
it.
company.
Yeah.
It's all just Zuck just ruling our world. All right. Well, thanks so much. We could continue this forever, I'm sure.
We'll do it again sometime soon, Nissim. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. You can go to sapien.org and find out about the Sapien program and the Sapien tribe. You can go to Nose to Tail to find out about all our whole food products, and evolvehealthcare.com to work with Dr. Gary. See you next week.